Welcome to Synergy Flavors Trendcast episode 15th. I'm Alex Masumoto. I'm a marketing associate at Synergy Flavors in the US. And in this episode, we're going to discuss plant-based products' blossoming potential. And joining this discussion, we have two great experts on the plant-based dairy alternatives market, starting with Lorraine Kelly, Senior Category Manager at our Dairy Taste Divisions for EMEA. And also we're joined by Lindsay Ustima, who is the Business Development Manager here at Synergy US. And starting with Lindsay, Lindsay, I have two questions to kick this off. So first, could you give us some background on the plant-based dairy alternatives market? And second, why understanding the consumer is so critical overall, but specifically for this segment?
Certainly, Alex. Though the global movement of plant-based products from health food stores to mainstream grocery has been gradual over the last few decades, a tidal shift is underway. No longer are the dairy aisles limited to just soy or almond milks. Today, one can find an oat-based beverage, one with added pea protein, or maybe even a blend of oat, hemp milk, and kale. And beyond plant-based milks, the refrigerated aisles are also exploding with different non-dairy drinks, smoothies, yogurts, cheeses, and even frozen desserts. The global plant-based market will reach $21 billion in 2020 after sustaining 5 years of double-digit growth, which is no small feat. So there's really no denying that consumers' interest in these dairy alternatives is there. However, it is critical to understand their personal motives for purchasing these products in order for manufacturers to be successful. 40% of U.S. consumers live in households that use dairy alternatives, but the vast majority of those users are purchasing alternative milks, which is over $2 billion market in the U.S., but the second largest is the non-dairy ice cream or frozen dessert products. That is projected to be $538 million this year, up $200 million from just 2 years ago. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the impact that COVID-19 has had on the non-dairy alternative market. The long shelf life and the relative affordability have led to boosted sales in this space. Some brands have even seen increases of 300% year over year. Also, according to Mintel, while the economic downturn due to COVID will slow the sales of some of the higher priced non-dairy alternatives, the overall segment will continue to grow due to increased cooking from home, utilizing these products, and interest in health benefits of those plant-based foods.
Thanks, Lindsay. I also have a question for Lorraine now. Lorraine, could you provide us some additional insights on this shift in Europe?
We are seeing continued healthy growth of non-dairy alternatives in Europe. In 2019, retail value sales reached 3 billion, with growth being primarily driven by the UK, German, and French markets. The most significant drivers impacting purchase decisions are health and wellness, environmental concerns, and increased consumer curiosity. Of the non-dairy alternative categories, non-dairy milk alternatives is the most developed, with retail sales growing 23% over the last 2 years. In the UK and Germany, the high growth potential is with non-soy variants, whilst interestingly in France, it is distinguished by growth performance of both soy and non-soy variants. Product price remains a key barrier for category adoption in these markets. The second largest category is plant-based yogurt, which is worth 632 million and has seen growth over the last 2 years of about 10%. Whilst soy-based variants dominate in this market, we are starting to see the entrance of new products with almonds, coconut, and oats also. France is the second largest market globally, valued at 175 million, and both France and Italy are considered the most promising growth markets in Europe for this range. COVID-19 has put a strain on the plant-based food sector in Europe, and many supermarkets have put their focus on keeping standard product lines on the shelf. And this has come at an impact to new product launches and a reduced number being seen this year. For the dairy alternative category, it's the first time in 5 years that we've seen a fall in new product numbers being launched. Non-dairy milk alternatives and plant-based spoonable yogurts have fallen 19% and 26% respectively. And I suppose for brands, this means that positioning of their products and addressing consumer needs is now more critical than ever.
Lindsay, we mentioned at the beginning that understanding the non-dairy consumer was critical to us. Can you share some of the background on the non-dairy consumer study that Synergy conducted and the key takeaways?
These non-dairy alternative brands have cast an incredibly wide net across target markets. Most of the brands in the space are consistent on their key areas of focus, namely taste, nutrition, and sustainability. But their positioning varies on which consumer on the ever-broadening spectrum they are specifically targeting. Some manufacturers have chose to highlight different fortifications, which is helping to close the nutritional gap between their dairy-based counterparts, which in turn appeals not only to parents, but also for those consumers looking to explore new products or, again, replace maybe some of those products in their home cooking that they've done since the onset of COVID. While other manufacturers are leaning more heavily on authenticity and short ingredients lists, which are tapping into those purpose-based consumers that are looking for whole food products. While we can talk about brand messaging, Synergy wanted to understand the purchasing drivers direct from these non-dairy consumers. So we hosted a consumer study that would do just that. So we asked each respondent to self-identify as one of the consumer types displayed here. So mainstream, intrigued, flexitarian, vegetarian, or vegan. You are likely familiar with these consumer subsets, except perhaps the intrigued consumer. So the main differentiation is that we view the intrigued consumer as one that primarily consumes meat and dairy, with plant-based foods on a trial basis, whereas the flexitarian consumer consumes most plant-based products, but with some meat and dairy. We conducted similar studies on both the US and UK consumers, and what we found was very different intrinsic and extrinsic motivations across both the consumer spectrum and regional preferences. So to highlight our US findings, we asked all respondents to select their top 3 reasons why they purchased non-dairy alternative products. And we were actually surprised with some of the answers that we received based on their self-appointed consumer type. The mainstream consumer, the most common answer for purchasing these products was for variety or curiosity to try new things, followed closely by these consumers saying that they purchase non-dairy products because they actually prefer the taste. On the intrigued consumer, we were assuming that variety would actually be their main driver, but in fact, this subset of consumers that we surveyed are more likely to be pushed to trial due to lactose intolerance, perhaps either diagnosed later in life or they purchase these because of an allergen of a loved one. Secondarily, weight management was another driver with this intrigued consumer. Flexitarians are actually more likely than even vegetarian or vegan consumers to choose non-dairy products due to animal welfare or other ethical reasons. For vegetarians, their top purchasing reason was because of the lesser environmental impact that these products have. And along with vegans, a sale is highly persuasive. Differentiator there is that vegans are also most critical of ingredient statements and labeling with these non-dairy products.
Lorraine, which UK consumers are driving the growth in this case? What are their main needs?
In Europe, functional health claims are becoming more prevalent on launches. Top growing claims are focused on functional benefits around immunity and weight, also on children's products for between the ages of 5 and 12 years, and also focused on offering low and reduced sugar products. The increased interest from the health-conscious consumers has created a demand for plant-based alternatives with improved nutritional value. And we see brands responding by launching non-dairy alternatives with added nutrients to provide health benefits similar to that of dairy products. With nutritional fortification, it also brings challenges in terms of unfavorable organoleptic properties and can also impact the texture as well. And from recent patent filings, we see that manufacturers are very active in this area where they're looking at improving the sensory qualities of their products. We're also seeing consumers putting greater favor towards more eco-friendly plant-based items. And this is creating a new path for plant-based ingredients such as oats, those that are which we're seeing a lot of new launches on as well.
And how are manufacturers innovating in the non-dairy alternative space?
In Europe, and from the results of our UK consumer survey, mainstream consumers are driving growth, particularly flexitarians, in non-dairy alternatives. For this consumer group, taste is key because they have the flexibility to dip in and out of both traditional and non-dairy alternatives. And if one set of products doesn't deliver or meet their expectations, they can flip back to the other products, being traditional dairy. In our survey, we asked UK consumers why they purchase non-dairy alternative products. And the primary reason given was for the perceived health and nutrition benefits. This was in turn followed by price, for example, if products are on sale. Following these particular reasons came equal interest being shown in better for the environment, taste preference, and also variety, the option of having something new. Mainstream and flexitarian consumers are primarily purchasing products for health and nutrition benefits and also for environmental reasons. And in our study, it was shown that for vegans and vegetarians, animal welfare was the top reason for their purchase. Just like what we saw with vegan consumers in the US, ingredient labels are critical for this consumer. We also asked the question of consumers in terms of sensory qualities, what would most improve non-dairy alternative products? The primary factor indicated was better taste, so things like improving the aftertaste and reducing bitterness. The second factor was for products to taste more like traditional dairy. And for vegetarians, and also those aged between 18 and 24 and 65 plus years, it was their most important factor for improvement. Another question that we focused in on was nutritional claims and what were the key claims that they would like to see in their products. The key claims that were indicated were low and reduced sugar, interest in protein content, and also in no artificial flavors being used.
Thanks, Lindsay and Lorraine. I always think it's so interesting to hear, different perspectives of what's happening in two different markets. I think we all can agree that the plant-based dairy alternative market is growing across the globe, but it was so interesting to see also the consumer study that provides us a lot of good insights into what other similarities and what are the differences between what's driving consumer behavior into buying plant-based dairy alternative products in the UK and in the US. So I appreciate that. It's very enriching to the conversation. I understand that this was just a teaser. We have a lot of great insights that we're able to get from the non-dairy consumer study that Synergy has conducted. And you can expect to see more consumer data reports like this in the next coming months. We'll also be touching on a very hot topic in 2021. That's how to overcome some of the technical challenges that a plant-based dairy alternative product can present. So if you have any questions about those topics, please get in touch with us and we'll be happy to discuss more of that with you. I would like to thank Lindsay and Lorraine once again, and thank you for joining and listening to Synergy Flavors Trendcast. See you next time.